The city hummed quietly under the warm, dim glow of streetlights. It was the kind of late evening where most people were home, settling into the comfort of their couches, unaware of the quiet struggles happening in the shadows. For Monica Harris, a seasoned nurse with years of experience, the day had been just another exhausting one. Double shifts, endless rounds, and countless patients. All she wanted now was to collapse into bed with the hope that her 15-year-old daughter, Alexa, had at least remembered to eat dinner. But when Monica stepped into their modest 2-bedroom apartment, an immediate sense of wrongness gripped her. Alexa wasn't there. The television was off, the dinner leftovers sat untouched, and the sketchbook Alexa always carried was missing from the kitchen table. Monica's chest tightened. Alexa was a good girl, quiet, introverted, and artistic to the core, but ever since her father had passed away 2 years ago, she had developed a habit of sneaking out to strange places late at night. It wasn't for parties or hanging out with friends. No, Alexa sought solitude in abandoned places, construction sites, old parks, junkyards, anywhere she could find unique materials for her sculptures. Monica had warned her repeatedly about the dangers of wandering alone, especially at night, but Alexa never truly listened. Not again, Monica muttered under her breath, grabbing her car keys. Her exhaustion vanished, replaced by a mother's adrenaline-fueled urgency. She drove down the narrow streets of their neighborhood, scanning the dimly lit corners for any sign of her daughter. As she turned onto the industrial side of town, her headlights caught sight of a familiar silhouette. It was Alexa, climbing through a gap in the fence surrounding an abandoned construction site. Monica slammed on the brakes, her heart pounding with equal parts relief and frustration. Meanwhile, inside the construction site, Alexa was already absorbed in her task. The world outside didn't exist to her when she was in this state of creative focus. She combed through the rubble, carefully picking out pieces of rusted metal, twisted wires, and fragments of broken glass. Each item told a story to her, a story she planned to mold into her next sculpture. Her latest project was personal, a towering figure of a woman shielding a child from an unseen force. It was her way of processing the grief and confusion that had lingered ever since her father's death. For Alexa, art wasn't just a hobby, it was survival. But tonight, Alexa wasn't as alone as she thought. Parked just outside the construction site, Officer Derek Powell sat in his patrol car, watching her through the fence. Powell was known on the force as a man with a short fuse and an even shorter sense of empathy. His career had stagnated years ago after a series of complaints about his overly aggressive behavior. Now, he was relegated to patrolling low-crime areas where nothing ever happened. For Powell, boredom was a slow death, and he was always on the lookout for something or someone to break the monotony. When Powell spotted Alexa moving through the shadows with her flashlight, his mind immediately jumped to the worst conclusion. To him, she wasn't an artist searching for inspiration. She was a trespasser, maybe even a thief, scoping out the site for something to steal. He didn't stop to question his assumptions. Powell thrived on acting first and thinking later. He gripped his radio and barked into it. Possible suspect on the construction site at Pine and 14th. Young female. Moving in to investigate. Powell stepped out of his car, the creak of his boots echoing in the still night. He switched on his flashlight, the beam slicing through the darkness as he approached the fence. Alexa, oblivious to his presence, continued rummaging through a pile of scrap metal. The faint clinking of metal against metal was the only sound until Powell's sharp, authoritative voice shattered the quiet. "Hey, you there! Step away from the pile and put your hands where I can see them." Alexa froze, her heart leaping into her throat. She turned slowly, the harsh beam of Powell's flashlight blinding her. For a moment, She didn't move, trying to process what was happening. Then, instinctively, she dropped the piece of metal she was holding and raised her hands, the flashlight in her grip casting a shaky circle of light on the ground. "What are you doing here?" Powell barked, his hand already resting on the holster of his gun. "This is private property. You got no business being here." I'm just looking for materials for my art," Alexa stammered, her voice trembling. "I'm not stealing anything, I swear." Powell sneered, stepping closer. He towered over Alexa, his shadow swallowing her entirely. "Art?" he repeated mockingly. "Is that what we're calling it now? Looks to me like you're scavenging for something to pawn off. Empty your bag." "What? No," Alexa began, but Powell cut her off. "I said, empty the bag. Now." Shaking, Alexa knelt down and unzipped her backpack. She pulled out the contents one by one, a pair of wire cutters, a small hammer, and a few pieces of rusted metal. To Powell, it was all the evidence he needed. His suspicions weren't just confirmed, they were validated. Tools for breaking in, Powell muttered to himself, ignoring Alexa's protests. "You're coming with me." Before Alexa could respond, Powell grabbed her by the arm and yanked her to her feet. She cried out, not in pain but in sheer disbelief. She couldn't understand why this was happening. The flashlight slipped from her hand and clattered to the ground, its light flickering ominously. "Wait, please," she pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. "I didn't do anything wrong. You're hurting me." "Yeah, I've heard that one before," Powell snapped, dragging her toward his patrol car. "You can explain it down at the station." As Powell hauled Alexa toward the fence, headlights swept across the construction site. Monica's car skidded to a stop just outside, and she jumped out, running toward them. "Let her go," Monica shouted, her voice breaking with fury and fear. She could barely recognize her daughter, whose face was pale and streaked with tears. Powell didn't let go. He turned to Monica, his expression hard and unyielding. "Stay back, Mom. This is official police business. She's my daughter." Monica yelled, advancing on him. "She's just a kid. What are you doing to her?" Powell rolled his eyes, his grip on Alexa tightening. "Your kid's trespassing on private property, carrying tools for God knows what. She's coming with me." "No, she's not," Monica said, her voice dropping into a deadly calm. She stepped closer, her eyes locked on Powell's. "You're not taking her anywhere." The tension in the air was suffocating. Powell hesitated, momentarily thrown by Monica's unwavering stance. But in the next moment, his ego flared, and he reached for his handcuffs. That was the moment Monica decided she wouldn't let this escalate any further. Not tonight. Not to her daughter. The night air grew heavier as Monica locked eyes with Officer Powell. Her daughter, Alexa, squirmed in his grip, tears streaming silently down her face. Monica could feel her pulse racing, a mix of fear and anger surging through her veins. This wasn't just an overreaction, it was cruelty disguised as authority. But Powell, with his rigid stance and hand on his cuffs, seemed completely unfazed. "Let her go," Monica said again, her voice firm yet controlled. It wasn't a plea anymore, it was a command. Powell smirked, clearly entertained by her defiance. "Ma'am, I suggest you back off before I have to add obstruction to the list of charges. Your daughter is trespassing on private property. She's carrying tools that could be used for theft or vandalism. This is textbook criminal behavior. She's an artist." Monica shot back, stepping closer. "Those tools are for her sculptures, not for anything illegal. And even if she's on private property, this doesn't give you the right to manhandle her like this." Powell chuckled darkly. "Yeah. And what do you think I'm supposed to do?" Let her go with a pat on the back. Maybe hand her a prize for breaking and entering. Doesn't work like that, lady. Alexa whimpered as Powell's grip tightened on her arm. The sight of her daughter in such visible pain snapped something inside Monica. She took another step forward, now just inches away from Powell. "You listen to me," she said through gritted teeth. "You don't lay another hand on my daughter. If you think I'm going to let some washed-up cop with a power complex arrest her for no reason, you've got another thing coming." Powell's face darkened at her words, the smirk fading into a cold, hard scowl. He released Alexa, shoving her roughly toward Monica. Alexa stumbled but caught herself, clutching her arm where his fingers had left red, angry marks. "Fine," Powell spat. "You want her back so bad? Take her. But don't think for a second this is over." He reached into his radio holster, speaking into the receiver with a tone dripping in smug satisfaction. "Dispatch, this is Unit 34. I've got 2 suspects at the abandoned construction site on Pine and 14th, requesting backup to detain." Monica's stomach dropped at the word suspects. This wasn't just about Alexa anymore. He was escalating the situation, dragging her into it as well. She looked at Alexa, whose face was pale with fear. They needed to get out of there, but Powell was blocking their path back to the car. "Suspects," Monica barked, her voice rising. "You're really going to call backup for this? A scared teenager and her mother. What the hell is wrong with you?" "What's wrong with me?" Powell shot back, his eyes narrowing. "What's wrong is people like you thinking you can just do whatever you want. No respect for the law, no accountability. Well, not tonight, lady. You're both coming with me." He stepped forward, reaching for Monica's arm this time. But Monica was ready. She sidestepped his grasp, placing herself protectively in front of Alexa. "Don't you dare touch me," she hissed. "We've done nothing wrong, and you know it. This isn't justice. This is harassment." Powell's lips curled into a snarl. "Oh, you think you're smart, huh? Think you know the law better than me? Let me tell you something, Mom. People like you always think you're above the rules. Well, I'm here to remind you that you're not." Monica's heart pounded as she realized how far Powell was willing to go to assert his authority. His voice was louder now, his posture more aggressive. It was clear he wasn't going to back down. She glanced around, searching for anything that could help them. The construction site was littered with debris, metal rods, broken wood, chunks of concrete, but nothing she could use to safely defuse the situation. Then her eyes fell on Alexa's backpack, which had been dropped to the ground during the struggle. Sticking out of one of the side pockets was the small black handle of the stun gun Monica had given Alexa months ago for protection. It wasn't much, but it was something. Monica kept her voice steady as she addressed Powell. "You're making a mistake," she said. "If you think this is going to end well for you, you're wrong. Is that a threat?" Powell barked, taking another step toward her. "No," Monica replied. "It's a fact." Before Powell could respond, Alexa, still trembling, crouched down and grabbed her backpack. Powell immediately turned his attention to her. "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" he shouted, lunging forward. "Alexa, run." Monica yelled, stepping into Powell's path to block him. But Powell was faster. He shoved past Monica and grabbed the backpack from Alexa's hands, yanking it open. His eyes landed on the stun gun, and his face twisted into a cruel smile. "Well, well," he said, holding up the device. "What do we have here? Carrying a weapon now, are we? That's another charge to add to a list." "It's not a weapon," Alexa cried. "It's for self-defense. My mom gave it to me because of people like you." Powell ignored her, inspecting the stun gun as if it were a prize. He turned to Monica with a sneer. "Nice parenting. You teaching your kid to fight cops now? real classy. Monica's hands curled into fists. She could feel the heat rising in her chest, the sharp edge of desperation cutting through her fear. Powell wasn't just abusing his authority, he was enjoying it. And that was something she couldn't forgive. "You have no idea what you're doing," Monica said, her voice low and dangerous. "If you don't let us go right now, I promise you'll regret it." Powell laughed, the sound echoing through the empty construction site. "Regret it? Lady, the only thing I regret is not calling backup sooner. You're a piece of work, you know that?" As he spoke, Monica's mind raced. She needed to act quickly, but recklessly charging at Powell would only make things worse. Then she noticed something. Powell was holding the stun gun loosely, as if he didn't consider it a real threat. That was his mistake. In a split second, Monica lunged forward, her hand closing around the handle of the stun gun. Powell's eyes widened in surprise as she yanked it out of his grasp. Before he could react, she activated the device, the sharp crackle of electricity filling the air. What the Powell started, but he didn't get to finish his sentence. Monica jabbed the stun gun into his side, and he let out a guttural yell as the electric current surged through him. His knees buckled, and he collapsed to the ground, writhing in pain. Alexa stared in stunned silence as her mother stood over Powell, the stun gun still sparking in her hand. For a moment, everything was still. The only sound was Powell's labored breathing as he tried to recover. Monica turned to Alexa, her voice calm but urgent. "Get to the car, now." The air hung heavy with tension, punctuated only by the sound of Powell's ragged breaths as he lay sprawled on the ground, his body still trembling from the electric shock. For a moment, Monica and Alexa stood frozen, staring down at him. Monica's knuckles were white around the handle of the stun gun, her chest rising and falling as adrenaline coursed through her veins. She'd acted on instinct, driven by a primal need to protect her daughter, but now the gravity of what she had done began to sink in. "Mom," Alexa whispered, her voice trembling. "What happens now?" Monica didn't respond immediately. Her eyes flicked to Powell's sidearm, still holstered but within his reach if he recovered quickly. Her instincts screamed at her to run, but Powell had called for backup, and she had no way of knowing how close they were to arriving. She looked back at Alexa, her daughter's tear-streaked face filled with fear and confusion. "We leave," Monica finally said, her voice low but firm. "Right now." But as she reached for Alexa's hand to lead her back toward the car, Powell stirred. His groan turned into a low, guttural growl as he pushed himself onto his hands and knees. His face, twisted with rage, turned upward to meet Monica's gaze. "You," Powell spat, his voice rough. "You're going to regret that." "Stay down," Monica warned, raising the stun gun again. Her voice was steady, but her fingers trembled. "Don't make me use it again." Powell let out a harsh laugh, his teeth bared like an animal backed into a corner. "Use it again? Lady, you have no idea what kind of trouble you're in. You think you can assault a cop and just walk away. You and your little brat are finished." Monica's grip tightened on the stun gun as Powell began to rise, his movements slow and deliberate. "Don't test me," she said, her tone dropping into a growl of her own. "Stay down." But Powell wasn't listening. He reached for his radio, fumbling with the device as he tried to call for help. "Unit 34, he rasped into the receiver. "Suspect assault, requesting immediate assistance." Alexa clutched her mother's arm, her voice rising in panic. "Mom, we need to go, right now." "Not yet," Monica muttered, her eyes locked on Powell. She couldn't leave him with a weapon and the means to chase them. They needed enough time to get away, and that meant neutralizing him completely. Powell's fingers brushed the handle of his gun, and Monica's decision was made for her. She lunged forward, kicking the weapon out of his reach with as much force as she could muster. The gun skidded across the ground, disappearing into the shadows of the construction site. "Bitch!" Powell roared, surging upward and swinging wildly at her. His fist connected with Monica's shoulder, sending her stumbling backward. The stun gun slipped from her grasp and clattered to the ground. "Mom!" Alexa screamed, her voice piercing the darkness. Powell advanced on Monica, his eyes blazing with fury. "You think you're tough? You think you can take me?" he snarled. "I'll show you what happens when you mess with the law." Before he could reach her, Alexa acted. Driven by equal parts fear and anger, she grabbed a nearby piece of rebar, a long, rusted metal rod, and swung it with all her strength. The metal struck Powell's leg with a sickening thud, and he howled in pain, collapsing to one knee. "Don't touch her," Alexa shouted, her voice cracking. She held the rebar in front of her like a sword, her hands shaking but her stance unwavering. Powell's gaze snapped to Alexa, his face a mask of disbelief and rage. "You little..." "That's enough," Monica barked, stepping between them. She reached down and retrieved the stun gun, pointing it at Powell once more. "Stay where you are. You've already lost." Powell glared at her, breathing heavily. "You think this is over? You have no idea who you're messing with. Backup's on the way. You're done." Monica's mind raced. Powell wasn't bluffing. The radio call he'd made earlier was already in motion. She glanced around, searching for a way out. The construction site was a labyrinth of half-finished structures and scattered debris, but it offered plenty of hiding places. If they could just stay out of sight long enough for the situation to de-escalate, they might have a chance. "Alexa," Monica said, her voice urgent but calm. "We're leaving. Now." Alexa hesitated, her grip tightening on the rebar. "What about him?" "I'll handle it," Monica replied, her eyes never leaving Powell. "Just go." But Alexa didn't move. "I'm not leaving you." Powell took advantage of the momentary distraction, lunging toward Monica. She reacted instantly, firing the stun gun again. The crackling electricity lit up the darkness as Powell collapsed, his body convulsing. This time she didn't wait for him to recover. "Alexa, go," Monica shouted, grabbing her daughter's arm and pulling her toward the shadows. Together they ran deeper into the construction site, weaving between steel beams and piles of rubble. Behind them, Powell's groans faded into the distance, replaced by the wail of approaching sirens. The sound sent a fresh wave of panic through Monica's chest. The backup Powell had called for was almost here, and they were running out of time. "Over here," Alexa called, pointing to a large piece of machinery, a crane with a metal platform raised several feet off the ground. "We can hide under there." Monica nodded, and the two of them scrambled beneath the platform, crouching low and pressing themselves against the cold steel. The sirens grew louder, and moments later, the red and blue lights of a patrol car illuminated the edges of the site. From their hiding spot, Monica and Alexa watched as two officers stepped out of the car. One of them, a younger man with a cautious demeanor, scanned the area with his flashlight. The other, older and more assertive, immediately approached Powell, who was still lying on the ground. "What the hell happened here?" the younger officer asked, his voice filled with concern. Powell groaned, struggling to sit up. "Suspects, 2 of them assaulted me. They're armed and dangerous." "Find them." The older officer frowned, clearly skeptical. "Armed and dangerous. Are you sure about that?" "They've got a stun gun and a metal rod," Powell snapped. "They attacked me out of nowhere. Just do your job and find them." The younger officer hesitated. "Shouldn't we call for more backup, if they're as dangerous as you say?" "No," Powell barked. "We don't need more backup. Just find them." The two officers exchanged a look, and Monica's heart sank. She could see the doubt in their eyes, but Powell's authority as a fellow cop was enough to compel them to act. They began sweeping the area, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. Monica held her breath, her hand gripping Alexa's tightly. She could feel her daughter trembling, and she leaned in close, whispering in her ear, "Stay quiet. Stay still. We'll get through this." As the officers moved closer to their hiding spot, Monica's mind raced. They couldn't stay here much longer. If they were found, Powell's version of the story would be the only one that mattered. She had to think of something, anything, to tip the odds in their favor. Her eyes darted to the machinery around them, searching for inspiration. Then she saw it, a stack of concrete blocks precariously balanced on a nearby ledge. If she could knock them over, it might create enough of a distraction for her and Alexa to escape. "Alexa," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "When I say go, you run for the fence. Don't look back. Just run. But. No buts. Trust me." Alexa nodded reluctantly, tears glistening in her eyes. Monica reached for a piece of debris, a small, jagged rock, and aimed carefully. With a deep breath, she hurled it at the base of the stack. The blocks toppled with a deafening crash, sending a cloud of dust and rubble into the air. The officers spun around, their flashlights darting toward the noise. "Over there," one of them shouted, running toward the source of the commotion. "Go," Monica hissed, pushing Alexa toward the fence. They bolted, weaving through the shadows as the chaos unfolded behind them. The fence loomed ahead, and for the first time that night, Monica felt a glimmer of hope. But she knew this wasn't over. Not yet. The chain link fence stood tall in front of them, the moonlight casting sharp shadows through the gaps in its mesh. Monica gripped Alexa's hand tightly as they ran, her heart pounding louder than the sound of their hurried footsteps. Behind them, the chaotic echoes of shouting officers and crunching rubble faded, but Monica knew it wouldn't be long before they were pursued. They had bought themselves only moments, precious, fleeting moments. When they reached the fence, Alexa hesitated, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "Mum, I can't climb this," she said, her voice breaking. I'll fall." "You can, Alexa. You have to," Monica urged, her tone firm but filled with desperation. She knelt down, threading her fingers together to form a foothold. "I'll boost you up. Just grab the top and pull yourself over." Alexa looked back toward the construction site, where beams of flashlight light darted through the darkness like searchlights. Her hesitation dissolved as adrenaline kicked in, and she placed her foot in Monica's hands. With a grunt of effort, Monica pushed her upward, steadying her as she scrambled to the top of the fence. The sharp tips of the fence's metal links snagged Alexa's hoodie, and she gasped, trying to free herself without ripping the fabric. Monica stood below, her hands raised to catch her daughter if she fell. "You're almost there. Just swing your leg over." With a final burst of strength, Alexa swung her leg over and dropped to the other side, landing awkwardly but safely on her feet. She turned to look at her mother, her hands gripping the fence. "Now you." Monica glanced over her shoulder. The younger officer was closer now, his flashlight sweeping dangerously near their position. Without a second thought, she began climbing, her fingers aching as they gripped the rough metal. Halfway up, a loud crack behind her made her freeze. "There," the officer shouted. "I see one of them." "Go, Alexa!" Monica yelled, forcing herself upward. "Run to the car and start it." "But, do it." Monica's voice was unyielding, her gaze locked on her daughter's terrified face. Alexa hesitated for a split second before turning and sprinting toward their car, her figure disappearing into the shadows. Monica hauled herself over the top of the fence, her palms scraping against the sharp edges. She landed hard on the other side, pain shooting up her leg as she stumbled but quickly righted herself. The flashlight beam caught her just as she started running again. "Stop," the officer barked. "Hands where I can see them." Monica didn't stop. She couldn't. The car was still 100 yards away, and she could hear Alexa fumbling with the keys, trying to start the engine. Her breath burned in her lungs as she pushed herself to run faster, but the officer was closing the distance. She reached the car just as Alexa managed to start it. "Get in," Alexa shouted, her voice trembling but determined. Monica yanked the door open and slid into the passenger seat. "Go," she urged. Alexa hesitated for a heartbeat, her hands gripping the wheel, then slammed her foot on the gas. The car lurched forward, its tires kicking up a spray of gravel. The younger officer, now just feet away, cursed and leapt back to avoid being hit. Monica glanced behind them, her stomach churning as the headlights of the patrol car flicked on. The older officer must have joined the chase. "Don't stop," she said, her voice sharp. "Whatever happens, don't stop." "I don't know where to go," Alexa cried, her knuckles white as she gripped the steering wheel. "They're going to catch us." "Take a left up ahead," Monica instructed, her mind racing. She knew the neighborhood better than most, and she hoped that years of navigating its winding back streets would give them an edge. "We'll lose them in the side streets." The patrol car's sirens blared to life, the red and blue lights flashing in the rearview mirror. Alexa's breathing was fast and shallow, and her hands shook as she turned the wheel. "Mom, I don't know if I can do this." "You can," Monica said, her voice steady. "You're doing great. Just keep going." As they weaved through the narrow streets, the patrol car gained on them, its engine roaring. Monica's mind raced through their options, but they all felt like dead ends. They couldn't outrun the police forever, and with every turn their escape route grew more limited. Then she remembered something: an old maintenance road that cut through the park on the edge of town. It was narrow and unlit, but it would lead them to a highway on-ramp. If they could just reach it, they might stand a chance. "Turn right at the next street," Monica said, urgency creeping into her voice. "There's a dirt road at the end. Take it." "A dirt road?" Alexa's voice cracked. "We'll get stuck." "Trust me," Monica insisted. "It's our only chance." Alexa hesitated but obeyed, turning sharply onto the street Monica had indicated. The patrol car followed close behind, its headlights casting long, menacing shadows. At the end of the street, Alexa spotted the dirt road, a narrow, bumpy path flanked by tall trees. "Go," Monica shouted, and Alexa veered onto the road, the car bouncing violently over the uneven terrain. The patrol car hesitated at the entrance to the road, its driver clearly debating whether to follow. Monica prayed they would decide it wasn't worth the risk. But her hopes were dashed when the car turned onto the road, its tires kicking up a cloud of dust. "They're still coming," Alexa cried, glancing in the rearview mirror. "I know," Monica said, scanning the road ahead. The trees pressed in on either side, their branches casting eerie shadows that danced in the headlights. The dirt path twisted and turned, each curve more treacherous than the last. As they rounded a particularly sharp bend, Monica spotted a fallen tree blocking part of the road. "Slow down," she instructed. "We have to go around it." Alexa eased off the gas, her hands shaking as she maneuvered the car around the obstacle. The patrol car gained on them, its lights piercing through the darkness like daggers. "We're not going to make it," Alexa whispered, her voice trembling. "Yes, we will," Monica said firmly. "Keep driving." But the patrol car was too close now. It swerved around the same obstacle and accelerated, its engine roaring as it closed the gap. Monica's mind raced. They needed to create distance, but how? Then she saw it, a steep incline off to the left, overgrown with grass and brush. It wasn't a road, but it might lead them back to the main highway. It was risky, but they had no other choice. "Turn left," Monica shouted. "Up the hill!" Alexa's eyes widened in alarm. "What? Are you crazy?" "Do it!" Monica yelled. With a panicked cry, Alexa yanked the wheel to the left, and the car lurched off the dirt road, its tires skidding as they climbed the uneven incline. Branches scraped against the sides of the car, and the engine groaned in protest, but they kept moving. Behind them, the patrol car hesitated again, its driver clearly unsure about following. For a moment, Monica dared to hope they had finally shaken their pursuers. But Powell wasn't one to give up. The patrol car roared up the hill after them, its tires slipping on the loose dirt. Monica clenched her fists, her body tense as they reached the top of the incline. Ahead of them, the brush cleared, revealing a narrow service road that led back to the highway. Monica's heart leapt. There. Head for the highway. Alexa floored the gas, the car surging forward onto the service road. Behind them, the patrol car struggled to crest the hill, its engine sputtering as it fought for traction. By the time it reached the service road, Alexa had already gained a significant lead. The highway loomed ahead, its bright lights a beacon of hope. "We're almost there," Monica said, her voice shaking with relief. "Just a little farther." Alexa merged onto the highway, the car picking up speed as they joined the flow of traffic. Monica glanced in the rearview mirror, her heart pounding. The patrol car appeared a moment later, its siren still blaring, but it was farther back now, struggling to keep up. For the first time that night, Monica allowed herself to hope that they might actually get away. The highway stretched out before them like a lifeline, its bright overhead lights contrasting sharply with the chaos they had just escaped. Alexa gripped the steering wheel tightly, her knuckles white as she maneuvered the car through the flow of traffic. Her face was pale, her breath coming in quick, shallow gasps. Monica reached over and placed a steadying hand on her daughter's arm. "You're doing great," Monica said, trying to keep her voice calm despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Just stay focused and keep driving. We'll figure this out." Behind them, the patrol car surged into view, its sirens wailing and red and blue lights flashing ominously in the rearview mirror. Alexa's eyes darted nervously between the road ahead and the reflection of the pursuit. "They're still coming," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I see them," Monica replied, her mind racing. She had hoped they could lose the police on the highway, but Powell's relentless determination had shattered that hope. She couldn't shake the image of his face, twisted with rage and humiliation as he vowed to bring them down. He wasn't going to let this go. "Mom, what do we do?" Alexa asked, panic creeping into her tone. "They're going to catch us." Monica leaned forward, scanning the road ahead for an exit or any place where they might be able to disappear. "We're not stopping," she said firmly. "Not until we're safe." Alexa's hands shook as she tightened her grip on the wheel. "I don't know if I can keep going." "You can," Monica interrupted, her voice steady and commanding. "I know this is terrifying, but you're stronger than you think. Just trust me." Alexa nodded, swallowing hard, and refocused on the road. Monica's eyes flicked back to the patrol car, which was now weaving aggressively through traffic to close the gap between them. Powell was driving recklessly, forcing other vehicles to swerve out of his way. The older officer who had accompanied him earlier was nowhere to be seen, likely left behind at the construction site. Of course he'd ditch his partner, Monica muttered under her breath. Coward. As the patrol car drew closer, Powell's voice crackled through the car speakers. He was using the PA system to address them, his tone dripping with venom. Pull over now. You're only making this worse for yourselves. Alexa flinched at the sound, her knuckles tightening on the wheel. What do I do? She asked frantically. Keep driving, Monica said, her jaw set. Don't listen to him. Powell's voice came again, louder and more insistent. Last warning, pull over or I'll force you off the road. Monica's chest tightened as she considered their options. Powell wasn't bluffing, he had already proven he was willing to escalate the situation. If they didn't act soon, he might do something even more dangerous. Then she saw it, a highway rest stop a few hundred yards ahead. It was small and poorly lit, with a single gas station and a diner that appeared to be closed for the night. But it was something. Monica made a snap decision. Take the exit, she instructed Alexa, pointing toward the rest stop. What? Why? Alexa asked, panic rising in her voice. He'll catch us there. Just trust me, Monica said. We're going to use the layout to our advantage. Do it now. Alexa hesitated for only a moment before obeying, turning onto the exit ramp and heading toward the rest stop. Powell followed close behind, his patrol car bearing down on them like a predator closing in on its prey. The gas station came into view, its fluorescent lights casting long shadows across the empty parking lot. Monica scanned the area, noting the positions of the pumps, the station building, and a narrow alleyway that ran behind it. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. Pull up near the building, Monica said, but don't stop the engine. Alexa did as she was told, bringing the car to a halt near the side of the gas station. The patrol car screeched to a stop behind them, and Powell wasted no time. He threw open the driver's side door and stepped out, his face a mask of fury. He had abandoned his sirens, leaving only the harsh glow of his flashing lights to illuminate the scene. Stay in the car, Monica said to Alexa, her tone firm. Lock the doors and don't open them for anyone but me. Mom, no, Alexa cried, panic rising in her voice. You can't go out there. He's crazy. I know, Monica said, her gaze hardening. That's why I need to distract him. Just do as I say. Before Alexa could protest further, Monica opened the door and stepped out, squaring her shoulders as she faced Powell. The cold night air bit at her skin, but she ignored it, her focus entirely on the man storming toward her. You're done, lady, Powell growled, his hand resting on the butt of his gun. You think you can assault a cop, resist arrest, and lead a goddamn chase down the highway? You're out of your mind. Monica held her ground, her voice steady as she replied. We've done nothing wrong and you know it. You escalated this. You hurt my daughter, and now you're trying to cover your tracks by painting us as criminals. It's not going to work. Powell laughed, the sound harsh and humorless. Cover my tracks. That's rich. You're the one who's going to prison, lady. Assaulting an officer is a felony. And your little stunt with that stun gun. That's just the icing on the cake. Monica's eyes narrowed. You were out of control back there. You attacked a scared teenage girl because your ego couldn't handle being questioned. You're a disgrace. Powell's face twisted with rage, and he took a step closer, his hand tightening on his gun. You've got a big mouth, you know that. Let's see how tough you are in cuffs. Monica's heart pounded, but she refused to back down. She needed to buy time for Alexa to come up with a plan, any plan. As Powell reached for his handcuffs, she took a step back, her mind racing. Then she spotted it, a metal fuel canister sitting near one of the gas pumps. She moved quickly, grabbing the canister and holding it in front of her. Powell froze, his eyes narrowing. "What the hell are you doing?" he demanded. Monica tilted the canister slightly, allowing a small trickle of gasoline to spill onto the pavement. "Stay back," she warned, her voice cold and steady. "Unless you want to find out what happens when this stuff ignites." Powell's eyes widened, and for the first time there was a flicker of hesitation in his expression. "You wouldn't." "Try me," Monica replied, her gaze unflinching. She didn't know if the canister was even full, but Powell didn't need to know that. All that mattered was keeping him at bay long enough for Alexa to act. The two of them stared each other down, the tension crackling in the air like static electricity. Then, out of the corner of her eye, Monica saw movement. Alexa had climbed into the driver's seat of the patrol car, the engine rumbling to life. Powell turned at the sound, his jaw dropping in disbelief. "What the?" Alexa slammed her foot on the gas, the patrol car lurching forward and plowing into one of the gas pumps. The impact wasn't enough to cause an explosion, but it sent a shower of sparks into the air and knocked the pump off its foundation. The distraction was all Monica needed. She dropped the canister and ran toward the alleyway, shouting for Alexa to follow. Her daughter jumped out of the patrol car and sprinted after her, the two of them disappearing into the shadows just as Powell let out a furious roar. "You're dead," he bellowed, his voice echoing through the night. "Do you hear me? Dead." Monica and Alexa didn't stop. They ran through the alley and into the darkness beyond, their breath ragged and their hearts pounding. They didn't know where they were going, but they knew they couldn't stop, not yet. The night was far from over. The night was an endless blur of pounding footsteps and shallow breaths. Monica and Alexa pushed forward through the darkness, weaving between alleyways and back streets. The adrenaline coursing through Monica's veins kept her moving, but the weight of the situation pressed heavily on her chest. Her daughter was silent now, too exhausted and terrified to speak. The gas station confrontation had bought them time, but not enough. Powell wasn't the kind of man to let go, not after being humiliated so thoroughly. He would come for them, and he wouldn't stop until he got what he wanted. They emerged into a small industrial yard, surrounded by rusted chain-link fences and stacks of metal barrels. A single overhead light flickered weakly, casting eerie shadows across the ground. Monica scanned the area, her mind racing for options. They needed a place to hide somewhere Powell wouldn't think to look. "There," she whispered, pointing to a large storage container near the back of the yard. "Get inside." Alexa hesitated, her wide eyes fixed on her mother. "What about you?" "I'll be right behind you," Monica promised, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling around them. "Go." Alexa nodded reluctantly and darted toward the container, squeezing through a small opening in the side. Monica waited until her daughter was safely inside before following, her muscles screaming in protest as she ducked and crawled through the narrow gap. Inside, the air was stifling and filled with the scent of rust and oil. Monica pressed her back against the cold metal wall, pulling Alexa close. "Stay quiet," she murmured, wrapping an arm around her daughter's shoulders. "No matter what happens, don't make a sound." They sat in tense silence, their breathing shallow and synchronized. The sound of distant sirens faded, replaced by an unsettling stillness. But Monica's instincts told her the danger wasn't over. Powell was still out there, and if he found them, there would be no reasoning with him. The stillness was shattered by the crunch of tires on gravel. Monica's heart sank as she heard the unmistakable hum of a patrol car engine. The vehicle came to a stop nearby, its doors slamming shut. Heavy boots hit the ground, their deliberate steps echoing through the yard. "Come on out." Powell's voice rang out, sharp and venomous. "You really think you can hide from me? It's over." Just make it easy on yourselves. Monica's grip on Alexa tightened. Her daughter's body was trembling, and Monica could feel the rapid beat of her heart through their shared contact. She leaned close to Alexa's ear, her voice barely a whisper. No matter what happens, stay here. Don't come out until I tell you. Mom. No, Alexa whispered back, her voice cracking with fear. Don't leave me. I'll be fine, Monica lied, pressing a kiss to her daughter's forehead. I just need to lead him away. You stay safe. Before Alexa could protest further, Monica slipped out of the container, moving as quietly as she could. The yard was dimly lit, the flickering overhead light casting long, distorted shadows. She crept toward the stacks of barrels, keeping low to the ground. Powell's voice cut through the silence again, this time closer. You think you're smart, don't you? He snarled. Think you can humiliate me and get away with it? You're nothing. Just another piece of trash who thinks the rules don't apply. Monica clenched her fists, the weight of his words fueling her resolve. She spotted a length of metal pipe leaning against one of the barrels and grabbed it, the cool weight of it grounding her. She didn't want to fight, but if Powell left her no choice, she would defend herself and her daughter with everything she had. The beam of a flashlight swept across the yard, passing just inches from where Monica was crouched. She held her breath, her muscles tensed, as Powell's footsteps drew closer. His shadow loomed over her hiding spot, his heavy breathing punctuating the oppressive silence. Come out, lady, Powell growled. You can't run forever. Monica took a deep breath, steadying herself. Then, with a burst of motion, she swung the metal pipe at Powell's flashlight, knocking it from his hand. The light shattered on impact, plunging the yard into near-total darkness. Damn it! Powell roared, stumbling backward. You think that's going to stop me? Monica didn't answer. She darted away, using the darkness to her advantage as she weaved between the barrels. Powell cursed loudly, the sound of his boots pounding against the gravel as he chased after her. You're just making it worse, he shouted. When I catch you, and I will, you're going to regret every second of this. Monica reached the far end of the yard, her chest heaving as she struggled to catch her breath. She spotted a stack of wooden pallets nearby and climbed onto them, hoping to gain a better vantage point. Powell's silhouette appeared below, his movements erratic as he searched for her. I know you're here, he taunted. Why don't you just come out and face me like a real woman? Monica's jaw tightened. She gripped the metal pipe tightly, her body coiled like a spring. Powell turned, his back to her, and she saw her chance. With a fierce cry, she leapt from the pallets and swung the pipe at his legs, knocking him to the ground. Powell let out a pained grunt as he fell, but his recovery was swift. He rolled onto his back, kicking out at Monica and sending her sprawling onto the gravel. The pipe clattered out of her grasp, and Powell scrambled to his feet, his face contorted with rage. You're dead, he hissed, reaching for his gun. Monica's heart stopped as she saw the weapon come into view. She lunged forward, grabbing Powell's arm and twisting it with all her strength. The gun fell to the ground, skidding out of reach. You think you're tough? Powell snarled, grappling with her. You're nothing. Do you hear me? Nothing. Monica's muscles screamed in protest as she fought to hold him off. Powell was stronger, fueled by anger and humiliation, but Monica's determination was unyielding. This wasn't just a fight for survival, it was a fight for her daughter's future. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw movement. Alexa had emerged from the storage container, the stun gun clutched tightly in her hands. Her face was pale, but her eyes burned with determination. Alexa, no, Monica shouted, but her daughter didn't stop. Alexa charged forward, her hands shaking as she raised the stun gun. Powell turned just in time to see her coming, his expression shifting from rage to shock. The crackling sound of the stun gun filled the air as Alexa pressed it against Powell's side. His body seized, his muscles locking up as electricity coursed through him. He let out a strangled cry before collapsing to the ground, his limbs twitching. Monica scrambled to her feet, rushing to Alexa's side. She pulled her daughter into a tight embrace, her heart pounding with a mix of relief and fear. "You did it," Monica whispered, her voice trembling. "You saved us." Alexa clung to her mother, tears streaming down her face. "I thought I lost you," she choked out. "You'll never lose me," Monica said, her voice firm. "I promise." They stood together for a moment, their breaths mingling in the cool night air. Behind them, Powell lay unconscious, his once commanding presence reduced to a crumpled heap. The fight was over, but Monica knew the battle for justice was just beginning. "Come on," she said, guiding Alexa toward the yard's exit. "We're not staying here." As they disappeared into the night, the first rays of dawn began to creep over the horizon, painting the sky with hues of gold and pink. It was a new day, and for the first time in hours, Monica allowed herself to believe that they might be okay. The dawn was breaking as Monica and Alexa trudged down the empty side street, their steps heavy but determined. The chaos of the night still clung to them like a shadow, but the first light of day brought a faint sense of relief. They had escaped Powell for now, but Monica's mind churned with uncertainty about what would happen next. Her daughter was safe, and that was all that mattered at the moment. Everything else could wait. Alexa clung to her mother's side, her face streaked with tears and dirt. The stun gun was still in her hand, its weight unfamiliar but oddly comforting. She kept glancing back over her shoulder, as if expecting Powell to rise from the grave and come after them again. "Is he?" Alexa began, her voice shaky. "Did we?" "No," Monica interrupted, her tone firm. "He's alive. He'll wake up soon enough, and he'll be angry, but he won't find us. Not tonight." Alexa nodded, though her expression remained uneasy. They walked in silence for several more blocks until they reached an all-night diner. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly, and the smell of burnt coffee wafted through the air. It wasn't much, but it was a place to catch their breath and plan their next move. "Come on," Monica said, pushing open the door. "We need to rest." The diner was nearly empty, save for an elderly couple sipping coffee in a corner booth, and a tired-looking waitress leaning against the counter. Monica guided Alexa to a seat near the back, away from the windows. She could feel her body protesting every movement, her muscles aching from the fight with Powell, but she pushed the pain aside. There was no time for weakness. The waitress approached their table, her pen poised over a notepad. "Rough night?" she asked, eyeing their disheveled appearances. "You could say that," Monica replied, managing a faint smile. "Just coffee, 2 cups, please." The waitress nodded and disappeared behind the counter. Alexa stared at the table, her hands trembling as she set the stun gun down. Monica reached over and covered her daughter's hands with her own, squeezing gently. "Alexa," Monica said softly. "Look at me." Alexa hesitated before lifting her gaze, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and guilt. "I hurt him," she whispered. What if I went too far?" "You didn't," Monica said firmly. "You protected yourself. You protected me. What you did was brave, and it was necessary." "But he's a cop," Alexa said, her voice cracking. "What if no one believes us? What if they think we're the criminals?" Monica took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. "I don't know what's going to happen next, But I do know this, we did nothing wrong. Powell attacked us, Alexa. He abused his power, and he tried to hurt us. You stood up to him. And that's not something to be ashamed of. Alexa nodded slowly, though the tension in her shoulders didn't ease. The waitress returned with their coffee, setting the steaming cups in front of them. Monica took a sip, the bitter liquid jolting her senses. She needed to think clearly. They couldn't stay here long. Powell's influence likely extended far beyond that construction site, and it was only a matter of time before his allies began looking for them. We need to find someone who can help, Monica said, her voice low. Someone who isn't afraid of Powell and his connections. Like who? Alexa asked. The police are on his side. He called for backup and they believed him. Not all of them, Monica said. There has to be someone out there who'll listen. We just need to figure out who. As she spoke, her mind flashed to the younger officer at the construction site, the one who had hesitated, who had questioned Powell's version of events. He hadn't seemed as blindly loyal as the others. Maybe, just maybe, he could be their lifeline. Wait here, Monica said, standing abruptly. I need to make a call. Mom, what are you doing? Alexa asked, panic flickering in her eyes. We can't. It's okay, Monica interrupted. I'll be right back. She walked to the payphone near the restroom, fumbling for change in her pocket. The diner's lights flickered slightly, casting a pale glow over her tired features. She punched in the number for the local precinct, her heart pounding as the phone rang. After a few moments, a voice answered. Westwood Police Department. Monica took a deep breath. I need to speak to Officer Thomas, she said. It's urgent. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Hold on. The seconds stretched into eternity before the voice returned. He's on duty right now. Who's calling? Just tell him it's about Officer Powell, Monica said, her voice firm. And tell him it's the truth he was looking for. Another pause. Then, one moment. Monica clutched the receiver tightly, her palms damp with sweat. She glanced back at Alexa, who was watching her anxiously from their booth. Finally, a new voice came on the line, calm, measured, and cautious. This is Officer Thomas. Officer Thomas, Monica said quickly. You don't know me, but I was at the construction site tonight. Powell tried to arrest my daughter and me. He attacked us. We had to defend ourselves. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. You're the woman from the site. Yes, Monica said. And I know how this looks. But Powell was out of control. He called for backup, and I know how these things work. He's going to twist the story to make us look like the criminals. Thomas didn't respond immediately, but Monica could hear the weight of his thoughts in the silence. Finally, he spoke. Powell has a reputation, he said carefully. But this is serious. If what you're saying is true, you're in a lot of danger. I know, Monica said. That's why I'm calling you. You seemed different, like you weren't on board with what he was doing. I wasn't, Thomas admitted. But you have to understand, going against another officer isn't easy, especially someone like Powell. He has connections. So do I, Monica lied, her voice steady. And I'll use them if I have to. But I'd rather do this the right way. Will you help us? Thomas hesitated again, and Monica's heart sank. She had been wrong to trust him. He wasn't going to. Where are you? He asked suddenly. Monica blinked, momentarily caught off guard. A diner on 8th and Maple, but we can't stay long. I'll be there in 20 minutes, Thomas said. Stay put, and stay out of sight. The line went dead. Monica stared at the receiver for a moment before hanging up. She returned to the booth, her face a mixture of hope and unease. Who was that? Alexa asked. Someone who might help us, Monica said, sitting down. But we'll see. Minutes turned into what felt like hours as they waited. Monica kept glancing at the door, her body tense with anticipation. Finally, a patrol car pulled into the lot. Monica's breath caught as she recognized Thomas stepping out, his expression wary but determined. He entered the diner, his gaze locking onto Monica and Alexei immediately. He approached their table, lowering his voice as he spoke. "You need to come with me," he said. "If Powell finds you first, you're done." Monica hesitated, searching his face for any sign of betrayal. She saw none. She stood, taking Alexa's hand. "Okay," she said. "Let's go." As they left the diner and climbed into Thomas's car, Monica felt a flicker of hope for the first time that night. The fight wasn't over, but they weren't alone anymore. And that made all the difference.